All right, today we're jumping headfirst into the world of DevOps. We're going to break down what it is exactly, and maybe more importantly, why it's pretty much rewriting the rules for how modern software gets made. So let's start with a really simple question. Think about your favorite apps on your phone, right? They're always getting better, adding new features, fixing little bugs. That kind of speed, it just wasn't a thing not too long ago. And the reason we have it now? Well, it all comes down to a huge shift in how people think about building software. Okay, so to really get why DevOps is such a game changer, we got to take a step back and look at how things used to be. For a long, long time, making software meant you had two different teams, two separate camps, and they were separated by this thing people started calling the wall of confusion. So on one side of the wall, you've got the development team, or dev for short. Their whole world was planning, designing, and building new stuff. Then on the other side, you had the operations team, or ops. Their job was to take what dev built, test it, get it running, and then send feedback about all the bugs they found. It sounds logical on paper, right? But in the real world, not so much. You can probably guess what happened next. This whole separation created these huge, frustrating bottlenecks. You'd have the dev team just sitting around, waiting for feedback. And meanwhile, the ops team might be stuck testing code that's already ancient history to the developers. The end result was always the same. Longer timelines, a ton of friction between teams, and projects that would drag on for weeks or even months longer than they needed to. So what's the fix? What if you could just smash that wall of confusion to pieces? Well, that's exactly the idea behind DevOps. And here's the thing you have to understand. DevOps isn't just some new tool you buy or a fancy job title. It's a whole culture. It's an approach where the dev and ops teams stop being two separate worlds and start working together, collaborating through the entire software lifecycle. This right here, the infinity loop, is the perfect symbol for DevOps. Why? Because it perfectly captures this idea of a continuous, never-ending process. It's a constant cycle of creating, getting feedback, and improving, with both teams totally in sync. And when you get this right, the benefits are absolutely huge. Suddenly, companies can react to changes way faster. They can get new software and updates out the door quicker and much more reliably. Deployments are smoother, more consistent, and the whole flow between the teams just works. Okay, so that's the big picture. We've covered the what and the why. But how does this whole infinite loop actually work day to day? Let's break it down. So this DevOps lifecycle really breaks down into 6 key phases that just keep looping. First, you plan what you're going to do. Then the developers get to code it. Once that's done, the code gets put together in a build. Next up, that build is automatically tested to squash any bugs. If it passes, it's ready to deploy out to the world. And finally, you monitor it constantly to see how it's doing. And guess what? All that information feeds right back into the next plan, and the loop starts all over again. Now, the real magic that makes this whole cycle spin so fast is automation. And there are specific tools for pretty much every phase. When you're coding, you're almost certainly using Git to keep track of everything. To build the software, you might use Maven. For testing, a tool like Selenium can automate that. Then you have the heavy hitters for deployment, like Docker and Kubernetes. And to monitor everything, you've got tools like Nagios. So, if automation is the magic, the engine driving this whole thing is a concept called continuous integration, or CI for short. This is the practice, usually automated by something like Jenkins, of constantly merging code, building it, and testing it. And the whole point is super simple. Find problems and fix them right away, not weeks or months down the line when they've become a huge mess. Okay, theory is great and all, but let's see how this plays out in the real world. I want to tell you a story about a little company you might have heard of, Netflix. Take a look at this number, $200,000. Any guesses what that represents? That was the estimated cost to Netflix for every single hour their service was down way back in 2014. 1 hour. Think about that. The amount of money on the line was just astronomical. They absolutely needed a system that could not, under any circumstances, fail. So what was their solution? Something pretty radical. They took the ideas of DevOps and pushed them to the absolute extreme. They built this thing they called the Simian Army. And what did it do? It was designed to intentionally break things, to create chaos in their own live system all the time. It sounds crazy, right? But by doing this, by embracing what's called chaos engineering, they forced themselves to build a system so tough, so resilient, that it was literally designed to handle failure from the very beginning. Now, the Netflix story is obviously a pretty extreme example, but it really highlights a much bigger trend happening everywhere. The game has changed. The speed at which software needs to be built and improved is just on a whole different level now. And you can bet it's not just Netflix. We're talking about the biggest players out there. Amazon, Walmart, Facebook, Adobe, you name it, they've all gone all in on DevOps culture because they know it's the only way to keep up. So the takeaway here is pretty clear. If you're a company today and you need to ship things faster, get rid of all that friction between teams, and just close that old gap between dev and ops, there's really only one way to do it, and that's DevOps. And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. In this world we live in now, where we all expect constant updates, new features, and systems that just never go down, is there really any other way to build software anymore?